Good morning. Today is the 26th day of September 2017. And we continue with our series, Poetry for the Soul, Part 3. I had originally envisaged these quotations as part of a series of books on a wide range of subjects. But in this age of greater visual acuity, I have opted instead for a series of videos. Not gods, nor men, nor even booksellers have put up with poets being second-rate. Horace. Poetry, in the most comprehensive application of the term, I take to be the flower of any kind of experience, rooted in truth and issuing forth in beauty. Leigh Hunt. He, the poet, must write as the interpreter of nature and the legislator of mankind, and consider himself as presiding over the thoughts and manners of future generations, as a being superior to time and place. Samuel Johnson. Boswell. Sir, what is poetry? Johnson. Why, sir? It is much easier to say what it is not. We all know what light is, but it is not easy to tell what it is. Samuel Johnson. Oh, for 10 years that I may overwhelm myself in poesy, so I may do the deed that my own soul has to itself decreed. John Keats. Two more from John Keats. A long poem is a test of invention, which I take to be the polar star of poetry, as fancy is the sails and imagination the rudder. Poetry's touches of beauty should never be halfway, thereby making the reader breathless instead of content. If poetry comes not as naturally as the leaves to a tree, it had better not come at all. The poet ranks far below the painter in the representation of visible things, and far below the musician in that of invisible things. Leonardo da Vinci. Silent as the sleeve-worn stone of casement ledges where the moss has grown, a poem should be wordless as the flight of birds. Archibald MacLeish. A poem should not mean, but be. Archibald MacLeish. Writing a book of poetry is like dropping a rose petal down the Grand Canyon and waiting for the echo. Don Marquis. Of its own accord, my song would come in the right rhythms. And what I was trying to say was poetry. Ovid. In 1918, Wilfred Owen wrote, "All a poet can do today is warn." Poetry must be as well written as prose, Ezra Pound. No sooner does the divine word touch his keen hearing than the poet's soul starts like an eagle that has been roused. Alexander Pushkin. If poetry is capable of saving us, it is a perfectly possible means of overcoming chaos. The great instrument of moral good is the imagination, and poetry administers to the effect by acting on the cause. Percy Bysshe Shelley. And another one from Shelley. Poetry is the record of the best and happiest moments, of the happiest and best minds. Poets are the hierophants of an unapprehended inspiration, the mirrors of the gigantic shadows which futurity casts upon the present. The words which express that they understand not, the trumpets which sing to battle and feel not what they inspire, the influence which is moved not but moves. Poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Shelley again. And Shelley once more. Every good poet includes a critic. The reverse will not hold. Nature never set forth the earth in so rich tapestry as diverse poets have done. Her world is brazen. The poets only deliver a golden one. Painting is silent poetry. Poetry is eloquent painting. Simonides was around 556 to 468 BC. Will there never come a season which shall rid us from the curse of a prose which knows no reason and an unmelodious verse? J.K. Stephen. Ah, yet would God this flesh of mine might be, where air might wash and long leaves cover me, where tides of grass break into foam of flowers, or where the wind's feet shine along the sea. Algernon Charles Swinburne. A translation is no translation, he said, unless it will give you the music of a poem along with the words of it. John Millington Synge. A poem is never finished. It's always an accident that puts a stop to it. That is to say, gives it to the public. Paul Valéry. The little girl had the making of a poet in her, who, being told to be sure of her meaning before she spoke, said, "How can I know what I think till I see what I say?" Graham Wallas, 1858 to 1932. Even when the poet seems most himself, he is never the bundle of accident and incoherence that sits down to breakfast. He has been reborn as an idea, something intended, complete. William Butler Yeats. And this famous poem by William Carlos Williams, who was born in 1883 and passed away in 1963. He wrote The Red Wheelbarrow in 1923. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. William Wordsworth. Oh, many are the poets that are sown by nature, men endowed with highest gifts, the vision and the faculty divine, yet wanting the accomplishment of verse. And again, two more by Wordsworth. Poetry is the breath and finer spirit of all knowledge. It is the impassioned expression which is in the countenance of all science. Poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. It takes its origin from emotion, recollected in tranquility. And two from Yeats. Just a few lines. Land of heart's desire, where beauty has no ebb, decay no flood, but joy is wisdom, time an endless song. And pluck till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. When Byron's eyes were shut in death, we bowed our head and held our breath. He taught us little, but our soul had felt him like the thunder's roll. Matthew Arnold. And this quatrain by Shelley refers to John Keats. He outsoared the shadow of our night. Envy and calumny and hate and pain, and that unrest which men miscall delight, can touch him not, and torture not again. Poetry, at its height, is the sun speaking. Language, when it mingles with spirit, does a tremendous service to the world. It empowers and changes lives. It wakens love, valor, wonder, and reveals the dance. Whoever you are, now I place my hand upon you, that you be my poem. Walt Whitman. Over the years, I have read almost all I could find of A.E., as he was known, George William Russell, a good friend of Yeats, and an important person for Ireland in his age. And this was in a little book I found some years back, and I'll read one paragraph. When I first discovered for myself how near was the king in his beauty, I thought I would be the singer of the happiest songs. Forgive me, spirit of my spirit, for this, that I have found it easier to read the mystery told in tears, and understood thee better in sorrow than in joy. That, though I would not, I have made the way seem thorny, and have wandered in too many byways, imagining myself into moods which held thee not. I should have parted the true from the false, but I have not yet passed away from myself, who am, in the words of this book. Time is a swift winnower, and that he will do quickly for me. Khalil Gibran. Poetry is a deal of joy and pain and wonder, with a dash of the dictionary. He who draws noble delights from sentiments of poetry is a true poet, though he has never written a line in all his life. George Sand. Always be a poet, even in prose. Charles Baudelaire. Poets are soldiers that liberate words from the steadfast possession of definition. Eli Komarov.